NHL free agent frenzy here continues. This is, I believe, our third video talking about all the big signings here today. We've already covered some big ones, including all the moves that we saw with Nashville, a lot of big moves with the Toronto Maple Leafs. In this video, we're going to continue on all the news of the day. We're looking at some signings like Jake Debrusk. Obviously, you got Jonathan Drouin, Sean Monahan, and a whole lot more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton more signings to go over. We're going to recap a lot of what's happened since the last video. Obviously, when the news was coming in fast and furious, I try to do videos for the bigger stuff, kind of leave that as a single entity, so to speak. We do one focusing on the Predators, where they signed Stamkos. Obviously brought in Marchessault, Brady Shea. So we talked about all those signings in one video. Then the Leafs had a bunch of moves, re-signing Joseph Woll, bringing in Stolarz, Ekman Larsson, and they get the Tanev deal done. So we talked about all that in one video, and now we've got a whole bunch more. A lot of this stuff might not be as big, but there are some big ones in here for sure. Nothing bigger than what Nashville has done. But we do have some big deals to talk about, including the biggest probably being Jake Debrusk, who was one of the top free agent wingers on the market, leaves the Boston Bruins and signs with the Vancouver Canucks. It looks like he's probably going to be a winger for Elias Pettersson. Debrusk gets a 7-year deal at $5.5 million. Definitely a good proven scorer, not afraid to be physical, play in the corners. The thing with Debrusk is you got to work on his consistency. Now, there's been times when he's been a playoff menace and like a leaf killer in the Bruins-Leaf series, but there's also been times when he's been kind of, you don't know that he's even playing. And so it kind of goes both ways here with Jake Debrusk, and I would suspect that's going to be the big key for this contract to be successful is the consistency. But overall, he's capable, he skates well, he scores, not afraid to play physical. We'll see how things work out, but a big signing there in Vancouver. Obviously, they were very much involved in Jake Gensel sweepstakes. Never worked out, so they pivoted to Debrusk, and for what was on the market, that was a good deal. Toronto is bringing back Matt Murray. Imagine that. Murray is signing with the Maple Leafs, so I suspect that'll end the time for Martin Jones there, because they've already signed, of course, Stolarz to be the backup to Joseph Woll. Now Matt Murray comes in and gets a 1-year deal at $875,000, so I don't know if he'll be on the main roster as the number 3. He might have to go to the Marlies. I don't know, but Murray is still signed. He gets re-signed after the long recovery after the major hip surgery there. So Murray is back in Toronto. Speaking of goalies, Scott Wedgwood ends up leaving Dallas. It ends up being another signing for the Nashville Predators. So that'll again increase the odds of a Askarov trade, because obviously Saros is supposed to be signing an 8-year extension. Then they bring in Scotty Wedgwood here on a 3-year deal at $1.5 million per season. So that blocks Askarov from getting to the NHL for the next 3 years. So I suspect he's going to be dealt. I have no doubt about that. So Nashville continues to be busy. We'll see what else Barry Trotz has up his sleeve here today. Detroit's made a couple of moves, including a couple of goalies too. So you got to suspect there's more trades coming out of Detroit. They signed Cam Talbot to a 2-year deal, 2 years at $2.5 million. They already have Alex Lyon for another season and Ville Husso. And then they signed Jack Campbell, who was bought out in Edmonton, 1 year at league minimum. So that is 4 NHL goalies. Now, of course, Campbell proved last year that maybe he's not an NHL goalie anymore. Obviously, 1 or 2 of these guys, or at least one, is going to have to play in the minors, but I don't know that they're really planning on carrying that many. I suspect that they're not going to bring in Talbot, Campbell, and not move somebody. So I suspect maybe Husso might go. Maybe they go with Lyon and Talbot as the main duo, with Campbell being the number 3. We'll see. I don't know. It makes me think the Yzerman and Detroit's up to something else there. The Dallas Stars. We have a bunch of signings in Dallas. Matt Duchene staying. Signs a 1-year deal at $3 million. I thought he might go for more term. That's good deal, but surprising. After they lost Scott Wedgwood because they didn't want to go to that kind of money, they get a cheaper option with Casey DeSmith. Also gets a 3-year contract, but at $1 million. So they save $500,000 on their cap by going from Wedgwood to DeSmith to be the backup to Ottinger. They also signed Ilya Lyubushkin, 2-year deal at $3.25 million, and Matt Dumba, 2 years at $3.75, and Brendan Smith at 1 year, $1 million. So obviously they brought out Ryan Suter. They didn't are able to keep Tanev. And these are the replacements. Smith will give you some physicality. Lyubushkin will give you some physicality. Dumba's not going to be better than Suter, though. I don't know what to make of that Dallas blue line. Definitely going to be different. Not completely sure that it's better, but we'll see where things go here. Obviously, lots of big moves there in Dallas. Utah continued to be busy today. Lots of moves yesterday and at the draft. Kevin Stenlund comes to Utah from the Cup champion Florida Panthers, who played a good role as a fourth-line center. He gets a 2-year deal at $2 million, and they bring in former Canuck and Penguin defenseman Ian Cole, 1 year at $3.1 million. So that Utah blue line just adds Ian Cole, so he'll likely be part of that third pair, probably with Kesselring, I suspect. So, yeah, the Utah blue line is looking pretty good. Florida does manage to retain Dmitry Kulikov today. He gets a 4-year contract at a pretty cheap rate of $1.15 million. Of course, they've already had Ekman Larsson and Montour both leave. They had Ryan Lomberg left, Stolarz left, Stenlund's left. So there's a lot of names out the door from the Cup Championship. They did also sign Thomas Nosek, who comes down on a 1-year league minimum deal, who was lost with the Devils. Blackhawks have been busy today. They re-signed Joey Anderson. He wasn't qualified, but he gets a 2-year deal at $800,000. They bring in Patty Maroon, 1 year, $1.3 million. So some more ruggedness and toughness there. Craig Smith comes in on a 1-year, $1 million deal. They signed veteran defenseman Alec Martinez, 1 year, $4 million. He'll be a good mentor to those young D for sure. And they bring in Laurent Brossoit to be the tandem goalie with Peter Mrazek, 2 years at $3.3. So some pretty good signings there. They're definitely going to be a little tougher to play against and some more veteran leadership around their young guns. The Jets bring back Eric Comrie after losing Brossoit. Comrie, I think that's his 3rd time in Winnipeg. So who says you can't go home again, right? So Eric Comrie goes back to the Jets, 1-year deal, $825,000. The Sabres signed Jason Zucker, 1 year, $5 million. Sam Lafferty, 2 years, $2 million. And Nicholas Aubé-Kubel, 1 year, $1.5 million. Interesting moves there. The Capitals continue to be busy. Of course, they traded for Chychrun earlier and signed Matt Roy. And then they added Brandon Duhaime, who most recently played with Colorado. 2-year deal at $1.85 million. They bring in Taylor Radish, who was let go by Chicago at 1 year, $1 million. The Los Angeles Kings have signed defenseman Joel Edmondson. This one's a whopper, and I don't know what they're thinking here. 4 years and $3.8 million. Wowzers. I can't believe they did that. With Edmondson, I don't know what to say. I mean, he's had a lot of back problems for one, so I worry about his health. He's a big boy. He can play physical, but he just seems to get hurt an awful lot, and he's just not as good as he was in his younger years. I think that's way too much money and too much term. Yeah. I don't know what they're thinking there. Colorado brings back Jonathan Drouin. That'll make McKinnon very happy as well. 1 year at $2.5 million. So we'll see. Get through the next year, and then they can maybe have a little bit more cap flexibility to do something longer. We'll have to wait and see, because hopefully by then they'll have a better idea of Nichushkin and Landeskog and how everything's working out there. They also brought back Kiviranta, 1 year league minimum. The Calgary Flames bring in a few players. Ryan Lomberg from the defending Cup champion Panthers goes to Calgary, 2 years at $2 million. They bring home Jake Bean, who's a Calgary boy, who played his junior hockey for the Calgary Hitmen, was let go by the Blue Jackets, and his dad actually used to work for the Flames too. 2 years at $1.75 million. And they brought in Devin Cooley as a third goalie, a 2-year deal, and it's the first year it's a 2-way. Year 2, it's a 1-way. So Cooley could be a good option there for them as well. Some insurance on Vladar, who had a big surgery too. The Devils have not only signed Brett Pesce, but Brendan Dillon. Pesce gets 6 years at $5.5 million. Dillon gets 3 years at $4 million. And Stefan Nason comes back from Carolina along with Pesce, 3 years at $2.75 million. So the Devils steal a couple Canes players there. For Pesce, that's like a homecoming. Matt Grzelcyk, who we knew wasn't going back to Boston, gets signed by the Penguins. 1 year, $2.75 million. The Seattle Kraken have signed a whopper here as well. They obviously added earlier as well, but Chandler Stephenson leaves the Golden Knights for a 7-year deal at $6.25 million. That's a rich deal. Stevenson's earned a really good pay raise. Again, no, I don't know that that's going to work out. I like Chandler Stephenson. He's worked really hard. Good skater, good two-way player. A lot of his I don't want to take away from his abilities, but to me, Mark Stone makes everybody better, and he played a lot with Stone, and I think a lot of his stats are a direct result of the Stone effect. So I think he needs to call his buddy Stoner and give him a big thank you, because he played a big role in helping him get there. The Oilers have not only signed Connor Brown, but to bring in Josh Brown, which I wonder if this is the end of Vinny Desharnais, because they signed Brown to a 3-year deal at $1 million per season. That I find weird. I would have kept Desharnais, to be honest. Josh Brown, analytically, if you take a look at a lot of the analytics reports, some of the top analytics people think he is the worst NHL player in the entire league. He's a big boy, 6'6". He played in Ottawa for a while, played in Arizona, was a Panther for a bit too before that. Huge guy, not afraid to drop the gloves and fight, but moving the puck and defensively, not so much. I don't get that. That's not a great move by the Edmonton Oilers. New York Islanders have signed a couple of players, and they're interesting deals. Mike Riley returns to the Islanders 1 year, $1.25. That's a fine deal. They bring in Anthony Duclair, who adds some speed and some youth to their lineup, which is good. It's a 4-year deal, though. I don't know how Islanders fans feel about the 4-year term, but sometimes you get to overpay a bit to bring players in. $3.5 million. That part's not too bad. But the 4 years, it's one of the longer contracts Duclair's had. So hopefully things work out. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Duclair could be a good fit there. And if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to double-check this, but I'm pretty sure Anthony Duclair might have played for Patrick Waugh in junior. I have to double-check that, but I think he did, which Patty Roy might have played a big role there. We'll see. Max Jones, who was not qualified in Anaheim, goes to Boston. He could play a similar role that you've seen like Pat Maroon, except he's a little younger, a little bit more offensive. Jones gets a 2-year deal at $1 million. Of course, the Bruins already brought in Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov, who we talked about in another video. So a pretty good day for Boston. The Blue Jackets bring in Sean Monahan. Sean Money Monahan is going to be his new nickname here. 5-year deal at $5.5 million per season. So after getting a long-term deal in Calgary, the last few years he really struggled with injuries. Ends up leaving. They had to pay Montreal to take him off their hands. The first season was going well, got hurt again. Then he put together a good season, got traded to Winnipeg, and then from there he gets himself into this deal. He'll be reunited with one of his closest friends and longtime running mate, line mate, Johnny Gaudreau. This might be good for Gaudreau as well. Certainly the 5-year term matches the end of Johnny's contract too. So I don't think that's a coincidence. So those two that were always really good together in Calgary. If Monahan can stay healthy, I think they could do it again. So we'll see. I know from a personal standpoint, I'm sure they're both pleased. And if they can get it going on the ice like they did in Calgary, then it could help the team out as well. So we will see. It's been an extremely busy day here. I think that's everything I've written down for right now. There's probably a bunch more. I'm sure there's probably some minor ones that I might have missed. And then I can say with certainty that there's probably another 10 or 15 signings that have been announced just while I've been sitting here recording this video. So it's been a fast and furious kind of frenzy day, which is why they call it a frenzy. All kinds of stuff happened. So let me know your thoughts on all this signings here so far down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll be back with more videos recapping the rest of the day's events soon enough. Hopefully the craziness calms down so we can catch our breath and actually absorb what's all happened here today. It's hard to keep it all straight without my trusty clipboard here with all my notes. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.